My name's Kevin Henderson, and the title of the exhibition is Domestique, which from the French translates as servant. The term is this idea of doing something, of undertaking something for the benefit of others, or in order that a group of individuals can achieve something which ordinarily they couldn't just on their own. Initially, when I began to think about it, what happened if I kind of imported that idea into the kind of context of the art world, how I understood my own presence within the art world, my own presence in relationship to the work that I was making, and then ultimately that relationship with the visitor to the gallery, to the viewer, of the work, ultimately. I became very aware that the environment within which I was living influenced and affected the shape that the work took. The environment that I currently live in is one that's very rural. It's at the kind of it's in the Tay Valley. It's just on the edge of Highland Perthshire, on effectively an alluvial floodplain of the River Tay. And the soil is very it's what we call claggy. It's clay, and up until I think about 3 years ago, the last remaining brickworks in the UK was in this area. And I've lived in this area or in areas like this for most of my life on the east coast of Scotland, and where I live at the moment, I feel particularly, if you like, at home. And the work is of a scale which again seems to be related to the place and to the architecture and to where I live. They're domestic-sized kind of works. The painting and the making, that kind of side of things is very closely connected to the writing that I do and to poetry, and in much the same way that a poem will begin by hearing something that somebody said or seeing something, the paintings and the clays begin often with something like that as well. The works on clay initially came about by kind of accident, by somebody giving me some clay, and I was kind of interested in this kind of very just stuff, this mud. And then I began drawing into them, scratching into them, making marks on them, and then painting. And again, these works kind of evolved. Working with the clay, there's a different relationship to the material and to time, and there's a kind of severity, in a sense, about these works that with oil painting you can scrape it off and apply more over the top, and it's a very fluid, changeable kind of surface. There's something quite emphatic about putting a line into a bed of wet clay and then letting that dry. It slows things down, perhaps, in a way as well. The clay works are things which happen over months, over weeks, but there is that kind of sense of they reveal their own making in a different way than canvases and oil painting can do. The clays are all placed on these shelves that I've had made. They're not shelves as such. They're what I've been calling predellas, which is the foot or the step up on altarpieces, which was the original meaning of the term. I'm kind of interested in the sort of elevation of the object, not into the sacred sphere, but if you take the idea of the predella, this kind of base, this stool, this platform for the altar, and you link it to the kinds of pedestals that Chinese scholars' rocks would sit on, then you get something kind of quite interesting happening there as well. So these predellas they're not plinths, they're not shelves. They're something in between. And the ones in the show are a very particular colour. They're a colour called Pompadour, which was named after a French courtesan, a woman who popularised Sèvres porcelain in the French court. And in the same way as on the scholars' rocks, the pedestals would often be carved with cloud forms or wave-like forms. You get this kind of resonance between the two parts of the form. The canvases again are slightly different. The process behind them is quite different, I think. If I can try and give you one example, there's one of the paintings which carries the title Hotel Duxar. The title Hotel Duxar actually comes from, it's a hotel in the film The Sheltering Sky. It's a Bertolucci film. And I was kind of watching the film whilst making the paintings, and the kind of colours, and whilst the works are very definitely rooted with me in place, I often travel imaginatively to lots of other places at the time, and those are places which are as much kind of cultural as well as actual. They can be through cinema, through film, through literature, through things that I'm reading, through other things that I'm seeing. The clays have aspects of Archimedean geometry in them. There's the Serbian punk rock experimental kind of references in there. There's all sorts of things that kind of percolate in, some of which may be in a kind of very intuitive sense available to the visitor, to the viewer, but the specifics of these references are perhaps not, and there are perhaps more ways of me generating and evolving and developing the work and allowing me to make decisions about the painting as well.